is the earth man. Rasta man. I listen to the first.
What is a Rasta man? The man we set the plan. The man we touch the street and love and bless up everyone. The Rasta man no skip a beat. The Rasta man unique. We now go take defeat. The mission have be complete. And through the humble and the meek. My lyrics is my gun. No boy can't tell me no. She rise above the rest. Empress no beg no friend. Real empress no bend. So sorry that I broke your heart to pieces. Love a pour like some every rain shower. I miss you even when it's only been an hour.
Good evening to my Vice Chair, Senator Maurice James, committee members, Senator Carrion, Senator Joseph, Senator DeGraff, Senator Bolquez, other senators present, Senator Capehart, Senator Gittins, staff, representatives of the Virgin Islands Housing Authority, those in attendance at this Tri-Island Town Hall, the viewing and listening audience, and to the people of the Virgin Islands. On behalf of the members of the Committee on Housing, Transportation, and Telecommunications, I would like to welcome you to this Town Hall on the Virgin Islands Housing Authority Annual Plan, and to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to participate in this important process. The purpose of this Town Hall is to bring the details of the plan before the public and maximize input. This will give the Housing Authority the best opportunity to hear the views of the public, housing community residents, housing choice, voucher recipient, participating and potential landlords, and the general public, and to take them into account before finalizing its plan. Why, you may ask, is the Committee on Housing doing this? After all, this is a housing plan, not the legislature's. The short answer is that I believe this is a way to assist the Housing Authority and the public in developing a plan that best meets the need of our people. The Virgin Islands, like the United States in general, is in the midst of a profound affordable housing crisis that severely impacts the quality of life for working families. Moreover, it cripples our effort to rebuild and further develop our community. Without safe, sanitary, and affordable housing in which to raise their families, people will not stay here, and they will not come here. And if they neither stay nor come here, where will we find the workers to rebuild our homes, to care for our sick and elderly, and to carry out the various functions needed in any healthy society? So in my opinion, the present and future plans of the VA Housing Authority for affordable housing are of the highest importance, and we must do everything in our power to move towards our common goal of ensuring that every family in the Virgin Islands has a safe, decent, and affordable housing. And I believe that paying attention to public input is critically important. This is why the committee has expended resources and energy to make sure that you have an opportunity to understand the territory's present and future plan for affordable housing, and that you have a chance to make your voices heard. First, my staff will give a brief presentation which summarizes the plan, and then we will open the floor to the public to provide feedback or to ask questions. My Vice Chair, Senator Maurice James, will be coordinating affairs on St. Croix, and Senator at Large Angel Bolquez, a committee member, will be coordinating matters on St. John. I am deeply grateful to Senator Bolquez and James, and to the staff, and also my staff, for playing such an important role in conducting this town hall. We also have representatives of the Virgin Islands Housing Authority with us to provide details and to provide answers to the best of their ability. In addition, pens and papers are available for anyone who wishes to leave a written comment, and those comments will be submitted to the VA Housing Authority. In addition, those in a viewing and listening audience are encouraged to submit your comments to the VI Housing Authorities via email at agencyplan@vihousing.org. That agencyplan@vihousing.org. At this point, I also want to recognize, I believe I saw another senator come into the well. Senator Fonseca is here also. But at this point, I want to turn you over to my legislative director, Mr. Rudy Cricker, right there on my right, who will present a summary of the plan. So, Mr. Cricker, you can move forward with a summary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And if media can place the presentation up, thank you. Good evening. My name is Rudy Krieger. I'm the Legislative Director and Policy Advisor for Senator Marvin A. Blyden. And I'd like to again thank you for being with us here today and sharing your input as we move forward. Now, what is the annual plan and why are public comments important? The annual plan is a document that guides the operations and direction of the Virgin Islands Housing Authority for the coming year. It is a requirement of the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, and it's submitted in October of each year. Like most federal policies and regulations, however, a 45-day comment period is required in which the public has an opportunity to review the plan and submit their comments and suggestions. This is a critically important part of ensuring that government plans and policies actually work for the people that they're supposed to serve. To illustrate just how important this is, the fact is that it was public housing community residents who first contacted Senator Blyden and his office and alerted us to some of the issues that were being discussed in the annual plan. For example, they alerted us to the fact that the proposed plan would increase its required security deposit from $205 to $500 or a month's rent, whichever is greater. Now, this is what led us to start organizing this meeting. And as we started looking further, we discovered other issues that we realized need to be brought to the public attention. Now, you realize that if through this meeting, the security deposit is reduced from the $500 as proposed to the current level or to a smaller amount than $500, this is just one illustration of just how powerful the voices of the community can be in shaping the decisions that affect our lives. Now, before we begin, I'd like to give just a brief overview of the VI Housing Authority, the scope of its responsibilities, and what the status of the agency is. Excuse me one moment. There we go. Now, the VI Housing Authority is the arm of the government that utilizes federal and local funding to provide affordable housing to Virgin Islanders at a cost below market rates. The Housing Authority uses two primary methods of doing this. One is the public housing communities, and the second is housing choice vouchers, commonly known as Section 8, which allows persons to utilize assistance to get housing in the private market. Now, the Housing Authority currently manages a total of 4,612 units. 2,087 of them are active housing choice vouchers, and 2,525 are public housing community apartments. Now, in discussing this annual plan and all future plans of the authority, we want to make one thing clear. The position of the Housing Authority, based on the age and the condition of our Housing Authority inventory, is such that their focus is on replacing, rather than simply rehabilitating the existing units. So over the next 10 years, I should say now 8 years, because it's been 2 years since the 10-year plan was announced, the Housing Authority intends to replace all 3,000 or all 2,600 of the units that's currently in its inventory. So by the next 10 years, we intend to have all new units. Now, this we have to say from the outset that we recognize that the need for affordable housing is greater than simply replacing the existing units. The Urban Land Institute in 2015 projected a need of 5,000 units. That number has grown since the hurricane, and we are going to have to figure out collectively, how to move beyond what is planned and what we actually need. Now, let's get to the summary of the plan. All right, as we just mentioned that there's going to be 10,000 over the next 10 years, that there are going to be 3,000 units replaced, and that we do need to figure out how we are going to properly fund not just those 3,000 units, but the additional units that are required if we are to actually meet community needs. As HUD is moving forward, as we move forward in this annual plan, there are a number of parts of the annual plan that have to do with meeting the requirements of the federal government. One of those requirements has to do with what HUD calls is deconcentrating of poverty policy. And what that means is that each public housing authority across the United States is being required to make sure that the average income level in each public housing community is neither above a certain point or below a certain point. Now, the problem with this is that this doesn't necessarily meet the economic realities of the Virgin Islands. The facts are that most of the residents in public housing and most of the applicants in our public housing units are classified by the federal government as low or very low income. And therefore, the primary focus of the Housing Authority in addressing this issue is to take the steps that are necessary to assist residents in increasing their incomes. So employment programs through the Section 3 program are one of the options that's being actively pursued. The Housing Authority is seeking to actively increase its own workforce so that it can not only employ more residents, but meet the needs of the residents. Everyone knows that the Housing Authority is significantly short-staffed in areas like maintenance, etc. As we move forward to our next, the VI Housing Authority is working with the Department of Labor, and I'm going to be asking Mr. Farmer to give us some more details as to how the employment provisions are actually going to be implemented, okay, from the Section 3 to Bright Path moving forward. Okay, we are now going to just list a couple of we spoke about some of the larger policy changes that the VI Housing Authority is making in its annual plan, and now we're going to speak to briefly, very briefly, to list some of the operational changes that are being made. The Housing Authority is moving to hire third-party vendors so that there can be an impartial process of doing grievance hearings when there's a dispute between the Housing Authority and tenants, so that we take any questions of fairness, off the table and, have an impartial process. Additionally, this is the part that we mentioned when we first began, that the Housing Authority is proposing an increase in the security deposit from $205 to $500 a month, or the first month's rent, whichever is higher. The stated purpose is to encourage residents to, have less issues, and so that there are less repair costs when one apartment is turned over to another resident. The Housing Authority will also be, in an effort to improve maintenance issues, will be conducting more frequent housekeeping inspections. I believe I'm correct, Mr. Farmer, and those will be quarterly inspections that the Housing Authority will be moving towards. Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm moving ahead of my own self. Thank you. And in terms of payment options, to make things to facilitate matters for residents, the Housing Authority will be establishing kiosks. If you've ever paid your bill at Sprint or T-Mobile, for example, you'll see the kiosk that they have set up for you to do your payment. There will be kiosks available at housing communities to do things from paying your rent to updating your change of status information, etc. Additionally, the authority will be launching an online payment option on September 1st. That will be in operation tomorrow, Mr. Farmer? On September 1. Okay, excellent. Okay, lastly, the Housing Authority is updating its admissions and continued occupancy policy regarding over-income households. And we're going to ask Mr. Farmer for some more clarification as to the timelines. But our understanding is that households that are over income will be given a 24-month period to either relocate or to pay rent at a higher level in accordance with their income. Can you clarify that? What was the period? I think 24 months was what we saw in the plan. Okay, thank you. All right, and at this point, I'd like to pause, okay, and give an opportunity for questions, input on what has been presented so far in terms of some of the operational changes that are being made by the Housing Authority. We want to start on St. John, and then move to then take questions from St. Croix and then St. Thomas. So Senator Bulkers, if there are any individuals on St. John that have questions at this time, we would like to entertain them.
Thank you, Mr. Krieger. There doesn't seem to be any question right this minute. But while I'm here, I just wanted to say I wanted to thank everyone for attending the town hall, in person and virtually, as we discuss the Virgin Islands 2024 housing plan. So no questions so far, Mr. Krieger.
Okay. On St. Croix, Vice Chairman James.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Yes, we have an individual on St. Croix who is going to ask a question.
Please.
When you get to the mic, identify yourself and then ask a question.
Blessed evening. You guys could hear me? Okay. Blessed evening. My name is Marisha Maynard, a resident at Williams Delight, as well as a member of the resident council. And my question is to your last statement on the household, the occupancy requirement for the over income. This is a question, but still like a statement. I understand what the question is that you guys going to go back and check to see if one's right now is making too much money to be considered low income residents, correct? And if so, I just wanted to state that, do you guys realize that some of these people that you're going to go back and check their income have been on a waiting list to purchase their home for like 10 years? Of course, people is gonna get raises. So now because of the lapse and pause within the home ownership process, you guys are going to say they have 4 months to go pay more rent when they was on a waiting list for almost 10 years for home ownership. Explain that to me, please.
Mr. Farmer, you understand the question?
Through our Chief Operating Officer, Ms. Lydia Pell, I can answer that.
Repeat yourself. Go ahead.
Ms. Pell is going to take the question on St. Croix. Please recognize her mic. Thank you.
Evening, Lydia Pell, Chief Operating Officer. It's not the scribe, right? So you don't need to. Okay. I didn't want to get to the mic yet. Let's get our question. Okay, so in response to, excuse me? Thanks. In response to the question in regards to the lapse in time for individuals who are currently public housing residents and they're participating in the homeownership program at Williams Delight, again, the calculation for their rent is going to be done effective January 1. So how does implementing this initiative starting on January 1 of 2024 has to be implemented? The calculation of your rent as considered a over income family, right now, based on our first run, there's roughly about 45 people. The majority of those people are not at Williams Delight. we will continue to evaluate, but again, we will be working on with each family to make sure that whatever income they are at, if they fall in that category, they have a time frame to come up with compliance for what HUD has put and mandated.
Okay.
The thought that they're going to be kicked out of or evicted from public housing because they're over income, there is a process. So they have to look at, and they, with the family, if they're going to be able to afford something market rate. And I would think that when we look at market rate, the purchase of your home should fall in that category.
Exactly.
So I don't see how that would be an issue of a family being kicked out if they're in the home ownership program.
What would be the problem is if we have to wait again till January 1st. If we have to wait that form, you said that the over income occupancy is going to kick in on January 1st.
Correct.
That means we have August, September, October, November, December for those who's on that list to hopefully get their home, so we do not have to go through that. So that's another, and the time
But that's
lapse.
not what I'm saying. I'm saying in lieu of you having to go to the market to rent a home, if you are over income, I don't see why the participation in the home ownership program can't be in lieu of that.
And I
Because
understand what you're saying.
essentially,
I know
that's what we're doing.
I understand exactly what you're saying, but I'm still, I need you to understand, it's still time, it's still process that we still have to go through for this. So I understand what you're saying in lieu of it, but if we do not get our homes while we're on that pending list by January 1st, those who's on that pending list, we will still have to fall in that, to go through that process, correct? Of checking our income, correct? Because we're still renting.
Yes, because you're still renting.
This is why whatever process that you have for those tenants on the list, we think that needs to be focused for those people to get in homes before January 1st.
Okay, please,
My point is.
one moment, Ms. Bell. Ms. Bell, one moment.
Income up.
One moment.
Yeah.
Before you speak, please, let's establish some rules. Two people cannot talk at the same time, so please give the individual time to explain, and then you may proceed. Continue, Ms. Bell. Thank you.
Another thing too is that since we have to go to St. Thomas, you have to remember the time also for each individual. So we will try to wrap this up, and then we come back to you again.
I'm good.
Yes, okay,
I'm good.
Okay. Did you want to
So to
conclude?
wrap up, I really think that the authority would look at, even though their determination of whether they're over income or not is done, the process of participating in the Williams Delight home ownership should be some type of exemption, but we would have to vet that with HUD.
So that's a comment really that should, I want them to make sure that the questions that you're raising and the comments you're raising are valuable. So you should try to put them, or you are. You got it, good, okay, you got it together. Okay, all right, so we're good. So because we don't want to lose, they're very valuable and meaningful comments that were made. Yeah, we're gonna go to St. Thomas.
Thank you, Senator James. Okay, I'm going to go to Senator Gittins quickly, and then I'm going to go to the constituent.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening to all. Thank you, Madanel, for that question as well, because I was wondering that I'm looking at the PHC plan summary, and it says that HUD deconcentrating of poverty policy requires the Virgin Islands Housing Authority to seek a greater percentage of higher income households in PHA, I guess that's public housing authorities. At the same time, HUD is requiring that over-income households move out or pay higher rent. I'm wondering, move out to go where if we have a housing crisis? Virgin Islands Housing Authority seeks to solve this dilemma by focusing on helping lowest income households to gain employment. So this is like sweet and sour for me. Which is it? You want them to move out, or we're going to assist them in remaining in these apartments and allowing them to, like for the Williams Delight area and St. Croix, to be able to purchase outright? Because they have been waiting for quite some time. So if you can just clear that up for me, because I'm not understanding this. Somebody from housing.
Thank you, Senator.
The place still silent, man. What's up?
Mr. Farmer, are you or Ms.
Through you,
Pell
Ms. Pell, I
going to
can
answer
answer
that?
that. Respond?
I will respond.
Okay.
But can the senator repeat his question again one more time? I'm sorry.
I don't know how much more succinct to be. I read exactly what's in the PHC plan summary. It says HUD deconcentrating of poverty policy requires the VI Housing Authority to seek greater percentage of higher income households in the public housing authorities, whatever that means. At the same time, HUD is requiring that over-income households move out or pay higher rent. I'm asking move out to go where? And then it goes on to say, VI Housing Authority seeks to solve this dilemma by focusing on helping lowest income households to gain employment. So if you're going to focus on helping lowest income households to gain employment, what happened to those who are now over income? Like Madam Nile stated, in the years past that people have been waiting on lists, some people may have gotten an increase in pay. So where do they go? That's what I would like to know.
Senator, I can't tell you where they would go. So let me repeat what the plan says. It says under the HAPMA, when a household's income exceeds 120% of the area median income for 24 consecutive months, housing authorities have the option to either evict them or offer them a new lease with the rent being the greater of the fair market value or an amount of monthly subsidy for their unit, including amounts from the operating and capital fund or the subsidy amount. The housing authority has chosen to allow these households to remain in public housing but paying a higher rent. And the effective date of those provisions is going to be January 1, 2024. So I cannot respond to your question to say where these people are going to go. What we did respond and say is that we're going to allow them to continue the process of being a homeowner at Williams Delight.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for responding, Ms. Pearl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. However, it's not just Williams Delight, and I just want them to know that. And if they're trying to solve a dilemma, then basically they need to say that they will allow them to remain and pay whatever adjustment costs for the rent. But you can't allow people to believe like they're going to be put on the streets.
Agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gittins. What I'm going to do, right, I'm going to allow the residents to ask questions because it's a town hall, it's about them, and then I'm going to leave all my colleagues ask questions at the end, but I really want to hear from the residents. So you may ask your question.
Okay. Good evening, Senate Vice President, and good evening, honorable senators. Good evening to the viewing and listening audience also. First, before I start, I want to share some information with you all. I have a date here of December 6, 1971. That date is the date my grandmother purchased her home in the Anna's Retreat subdivision. This really is the last true housing development we've had in the territory. She purchased that home at that time for $30,600. Truly an affordable housing opportunity. My question is very simple. When can we anticipate putting locals in affordable single-family housing units, not affordable units, but single-family structures? When can we anticipate that? I didn't see that in the plan anywhere. I see a lot of scaling down, numbers decreasing, but no positive plus on building and developing.
Okay, thank you for that question. I think I can answer that one because the housing plan is public housing, but I think that question is for Virgin Islands Housing Finance Authority. They are the one that deals with those type of developments. So, nonetheless, I will inquire to them about that and report back to you.
Okay,
Thank you so much for your question. We are now going to go to, okay, let me do another one on St. Thomas before I go to St. John, because I know St. John have a question too, because they came, so what I'll do is go to St. John, and then I'll come back to you, okay? St. John, you can stay there. St. John, you recognize for your question?
Yes, we have a question from Ms. Raven Phillips.
Please proceed.
Hi, good evening. Hello. Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Raven Phillips. I just want to start by saying I don't currently benefit from any of the programs that Housing Authority does, but I did grow up in a household that benefited from the Housing Choice Voucher program. I just wanted to point out that something that I noticed within the plan. Just to start with, I do appreciate that Housing Authority has made some consideration for the fact that collaborative efforts need to be taken to address affordable housing issues in the territory. They recognized, I see that the poverty policy, it requires Housing Authority to see HUD's poverty policy requires Housing Authority to seek a greater percentage of higher income households. And in trying to address that issue, there's collaborations happening with the Department of Labor to increase employment. Building off of that, I think my first question is, Housing Authority, have you identified that the issue is a matter of unemployment underneath your programs, or is it a matter of the people under your programs just not making enough money in general? And as a follow-up question to that, if it seems to be more of an issue of not making enough money, has any consideration been made towards pushing for increases in the minimum wage? It was brought to my attention this morning that there's supposed to be a wage board in place where it's like a collaborative effort to assess minimum wage in the territory, whether it matches the cost of living and what increases can happen. Is that part of the conversation being had?
Lydia Pell, Chief Operating Officer. I'm over here on the St. Croix side. So, Ms. Phillips, a lot of what you said is a little bit of both. Some of the individuals just don't make enough money. Some individuals, I agree, could use increase in the minimum wage, but that's not something that we as a housing authority have lobbied, but it's something that our territory and other officials can lobby. So, but I think you brought a good point to the conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that response. I bring it up because you mentioned that you're working with the Department of Labor to increase employment. If you're already engaging in that kind of conversation where it's inter-department, inter-agency collaborations that are happening, can't the same approach be taken with trying to address issues of minimum wage?
I agree. I'm sure they can. Right now, we're focused on making sure the individuals in our communities have more opportunities to increase their skill set to be more marketable in the employment area, to help to assist them to afford living and providing for their families. But yes, it's something we can, our data from our households help to create and for others to have better input on decision-making on things like minimum wage. So we can contribute and continue to collaborate with the Department of Labor as we're doing now.
Okay, thank you for that response. I do appreciate, the collaborative effort that is being taken in regards to just getting people employed. I do just want to stress that you even admitted that sometimes it is a matter of people just not making enough money. If we can push for increases to minimum wage, that might address, if you're already working with the Department of Labor, and I know Department of Labor has, they have their views online program that I know that the local government does post some of their positions there. I've seen Housing Authority itself have some of its positions on there. If we're already kind of having that conversation about getting people employed, I just think that conversation needs to be expanded so that we're pushing for an increase to minimum wage, just so that you get people into positions so that they have employment, but make sure that once in employment, they're making enough money that HUD is expecting. Thank you.
Right. And a lot of that is making sure they have the experience and the skill set.
Thank you so much. St. Thomas?
Good evening, Senators, Virginia's Housing Authority, and everyone present. My name is Dan Darima. My question this evening is related to income. What is the income limit that you're considering to be high? And I know it was mentioned here 120% over. So what level is that? And if it's different for St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John? That's my question. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Jimmy Farmer, Director of Asset Management. The income limits are different for St. John, St. Thomas, and St. Croix. 1 second to indulge in the plan because the numbers are posted, and I can provide that number before we leave, okay? It's based on families of a household of 1, household of 2, household of 3. There are income levels that cannot exceed for those family size. Currently within the Housing Authority, as Chief Operating Officer Ms. Pell stated, there's about 45 families that are currently over the income threshold. And when we say that they're over the income threshold, these are households making comfortably 6 figures. And the Housing Authority's goal is to ensure that we are meeting the mandate set by the Department of Housing Development as it relates to ensuring that we're housing low-income families. So whereas it may seem that we're trying to get rid of everybody, it's not that. We have to be mindful that there is a segment of the population that is really struggling. And if there are individuals, and one lady brought up a very good point, so if I'm making good money, now you want to kick me out, where do I go? And we all know territory-wide, there's a housing shortage, right? And so the Housing Authority has to dance this very delicate dance in terms of making sure that we're not putting an undue burden on the territory as it relates to evicting families simply because they're doing good. The Housing Authority, we want individuals to work. We want individuals to make good money. And there are individuals in the public housing developments making very good money, making a good living. but we have to make sure that we're adhering to what HUD guidelines are. It's not something that the Virgin Islands Housing Authority came up with and said, you know, because you're now over this income threshold, we're going to kick you out. There's just guidelines that the Housing Authority is binded to, and we must follow. We must follow as it relates to adhering to those income limits, both for St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix. Give me a second as I engage and try to find those numbers before everyone leaves.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. I just wanted to add one thing. That's why it's important to get comments from the public to add to this plan so that we can share them with HUD from our territory so they understand our dynamics here in the territory for a family to just go on into fair market rent amount or calculation is not that simple. Stateside is completely different.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. I'm going to go to St. Croix, and then I'm going to come back to St. Thomas. Okay, St. Croix?
St. Croix has a question. Come right ahead. Go right ahead.
Okay, good evening. My name is Simone James. I live in Williams Delight also. And the young lady from St. John, when she was saying about the minimum wage and stuff like that, I just want to be honest. We're looking at people with good credit. That's the first thing, because I already went through the stages and I got denied because they said insufficient funds, but I do work and I'm paying $5-something. Now, they had a grant program that they had through First Bank. I don't know how they did who they classified as low income, because to be honest, I am low income. But I went through everything. I went through the process, everything, just to hear I've been denied. Now, if I would have been able to get through the grant program, my bill would have been $3-something now. You understand? But
Come closer to the mic.
like this? Better? Okay. So let me go back. It's not about who has a job, because a lot of us already have income. Income is not the problem. It's the credit part to pass. So when the bank tells you, okay, so the grant program, we kind of asked them, what is that grant program about? We never got like a breakdown of it, a pamphlet. We never got anything. We were just told about this grant program. Somebody from the bank is going to contact us. He did contact us. We gave them all our information, all, just to say I've been denied because of insufficient funds. Now, my question is, how are y'all going to work with people like me that's been living in Williams Delight for like almost 30 years, right? And in the beginning, let's be real, rent-free. I did my part. I joined the programs. I did everything to better myself. Now I'm working and I'm paying close to $600 rent. I need assistance, because if we're looking at just my credit, then what can housing do to impact us? You understand what I'm saying? Because you got two impacts. You got bad impacts and you got good impacts. And this housing thing is really impacting us. Y'all don't get it. So let me just read something, all right, before I get off. And it's about good impact, right? I had to write it down. A good impact is any activity that significantly increases the ability for all life, current and future generations, to meet their needs. If housing think they met our needs, they didn't. I'm being honest, right? I'm talking about social impacts. What are y'all doing right now is impact. Y'all kind of forcing us. So before I get off this mic, because we've been going through this housing thing for years. Some people probably could have been able to purchase it at a time, but guess what? They lost their job, whatever happened. Now some people got a job now. They've been working for 3, 4, 5 years. Y'all charging them rent, and now y'all telling them, oh, we selling the house. You got to go do this, that. But some of us is still being denied. So you guys need to work on a program where we that lived in there for 30 years or more and been paying rent, Work with us. Do not move us out of there. We can afford to pay the mortgage. Like I said, regardless of what it is, I don't know what else to say, but I wish y'all would really think about this. Give us another 5 years, and don't let us rush out now. If that's what y'all want to get, because some of us need more time to get our credit right. And then try again and see where it goes from there. But don't rush this thing. Like I said, the grant program was through First Bank, okay? And I got denied, and I want to know, is it going to come again? Because if it comes again, maybe I did a little better, and maybe I would get it. But right now, they need to tell us about the grant program. What was that about? And why was they picking and choosing? I feel like they was picking and choosing, to be honest. They wasn't really for those who've been living there. You got people who just moved in Williams, they're like, let's say 3-4 years tops. They was able to get on the program and get their house. But then you got people who live in there 20 plus years, work for the government 20 plus years, paying rent 20 plus years, and they still got to turn around and go through the bank. Housing needs to work something like a rent to own for us, at least a rent to own. A rent to own for those who've been in there for so long, to pay something towards it to own it. Please, some of us can't go through the bank right now. We got student loans for our children. You know, life went on, you know? Like I said, we got set back from the COVID, everything. So it's like, y'all talking about all this money and this and this and that. What about us? The economy has impacted us as lower income people. Just know that. So can I say one more thing? I know some people don't like to be personal, but I will. I bring home $800. My rent is close to $600. I got 3 children. I got 2 girls home with me under the 26. I can't even get insurance because the insurance is $250. So you do the math. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm telling you from my heart, this is what's happening on the ground. You understand? I can't even afford insurance. And now y'all telling me I gotta go and see if I could get credit and pay banks and all of that? Come on, people. Y'all gotta give us some more time again. Keep giving us time. Demolish what y'all gotta demolish, but the people that's still in there, come on, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That one was painful. I ain't gonna lie about that. But I do want to ask, based on what she said, do you not get any credit towards the purchase price if you've been a tenant for a long time?
No.
You don't?
No, we don't.
Have they ever considered that though? Because that's a good point.
But so to respond to Ms. James, so the individuals go through a pre-qualification process, and she's right. The bank had a program that they offered assistance to families to do purchases. We recognize the assistance. So there is rural development, there's VI Slice, there's First Bank home buyers program. So she did what she was supposed to do. Right. She went through the process. She got denied, and there are other individuals that got denied because they actually make too much money. In the plan, we discuss the ability for the housing authority to do the loan, like we've done in the past. So in her case, once we determined that she can afford the payments, we would do the loan ourselves. So there is discussion in the plan about having that option.
That's good. That's good to know, because if you've been a tenant for such a long time, it just seems that we should find a way to. The other thing that crossed my mind was like subsidies.
Correct,
Yes.
correct.
So that's what you're talking
There
about.
is,
Okay.
yes. Yes, and we are working that, there is discussion in the plan
On
about
that?
that.
Okay. Senator Blyden, back to you. Thank you for that, Ms. James. I appreciate that.
Thank you for that. Before I go to Mr. Beef, Ms. Pell, based on the discussion thus far with the young lady, there are two questions that need to be answered in respect to her statement. The first one is, who advocates or who basically goes to HUD to let them know about what challenges here in the territory on behalf of our residents, based on what that young lady stated? And number two, can you explain the FSS program, please? Because that's another program that deals with Section 8. Can you briefly speak to those two?
So who goes to HUD on behalf of the residents?
Yes, with the challenges.
We do, and this public process is part of the engagement of people like the individuals that they've chosen for resident council, resident commissioners that are on our board, for those individuals to have a voice at the table and to the federal government about what and how they're affected by their rules and regulations. So we do that. We do that by the comments and the information that we share and the things that we put in the plan to try to improve the way that our residents are being viewed, or to make them in compliance and to make the conditions and the surroundings around them, safer, better in any way that we can. Remember, the plan is just for 1 year. A lot of times, even though we have information in the plan, we don't get to an initiative or a goal in that year, and it moves forward to the next year. So part of the plan is you'll see initiatives and goals that were done as part of the first 5 years that we either got accomplished, didn't get accomplished, and then continue to work to get accomplished.
And speak to the family self-sufficiency program also.
So there is an entire section in the plan on FSS, what we call FSS, family self-sufficiency. And in the plan, right now it discusses serving a minimum of 25 low-income public housing and housing choice voucher program families. Let me just see. And basically, family self-sufficiency is a voluntary program. It allows families to be able to basically set aside a portion of their rent to do things and set goals that they themselves set. We coordinate with our family self-sufficiency coordinator. They coordinate and they go through a process of learning, teaching, guiding them into what they do with this money. And some of what that also entails is the ability for them to purchase a home. So it's something, it's not just on the public housing side, it's also on the housing choice voucher side. So it's in both plans that you have before you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Beef.
Pleasant good night, everybody.
Speaking to the mic, Mr. Beef, we can't hear you.
While I was listening, I was thinking about Bill 210173. And it's a rent-to-own.
Mr. Beef.
It's a rent-to-own public housing conversion program, and it was done in the 21st legislature. And everything I'm hearing is right in there. So it's on you legislators to get the housing people to follow this bill. And what
Repeat that bill number.
is 210173. And it's called Virgin Island Rent-to-Own Public Housing Conversion Program. And this was done in 1996 when Senator Rocky Liebert was chair. So I listened to everything you're saying, but it's right here already. The problem is people was playing politics. Instead of implementing it to HUD, they just gave it to the people like, oh, you can own your own home. They had it where they even had a schedule where if you did 20 years, you could get it for $1. Okay? And they have a schedule right here in the back because they enacted Act number 6111, where the time that you in housing already count towards your purchasing your home. You know, they playing games with us. That's what they playing. I'm not saying this people here, this senators here. I'm talking about the system. They're just playing games with us. And we putting up with it because we ain't saying nothing. As far as Williams Delight, what's happening with St. Thomas? Why is St. Thomas don't have home ownership? Right now, I got them in a court because of that. Because I appealed to HUD. HUD told us that, okay, it was discrimination, but in the States, the discrimination is different than down here. Down here is not discrimination because of color. Down here is discrimination because of people's personal whatever, right? So they turned us down, but they gave us a right to appeal to the district court, which is in front of Judge Malloy right now for the last 3 months, to rule on having an attorney appointed and to proceed farmer proper without having to pay anything. Why we don't have home ownership? You understand? They talking about the difficulties they have, but at least they have it. You know, so the housing, Ms. Pelt, and all of them, they know from 2012, Oswald Harris Court been trying to get home ownership. From 2012. All they've been doing is blocking. This thing about tax credits, getting the buildings and stuff, is going to make it harder because the people with the tax credits, they're going to own 51% of the property, and housing is only going to own 49%. So who's going to call the shots? Strangers. You understand? So you got to wake up because they got planned to tear everything down and let the tax credit people build back. But they're going to own the thing. They're going to determine who coming in. Next thing you know, it's going to be like in Harlem. You know what I'm saying? Like in Harlem. You ain't no ghettos in Harlem no more. $1 million condos. You know what I'm saying? So you got to wake up because this ain't no game. And I appreciate, Senator Blyden calling this meeting. I appreciate that y'all take the time and get these two bills here, and you're going to see everything that people are saying is right here. The senators did it already. Why are we going to go over this again? You know what I'm saying? You got to get these here. Everything that people in here are saying, or the ladies and them saying on the thing, is in here. And no market, nothing. It's supposed to make it so that the people can afford it. You understand? Because they're going to say, okay, and Williams Delight was a dump. Used to be a dump. That's why they can't build a system under the ground. Oswald Harris Court, they're saying, oh, they got teared down because it's damaged by hurricane and all that. Oswald Harris Court is one of the strongest buildings around.
That is correct.
Am I right or wrong?
That is correct.
When people have hurricane here, they come down to Oswald Harris Court from their house up on the hill. I don't blame you.
That is correct.
Come on down.
That is correct.
So I just really want, I haven't been coming here for years. You know why I haven't been coming here for years? It's because one time they enacted a law stating that after 2 a.m. in the morning, that we couldn't talk no politics, the people. I came to them, I said, look, that's a violation of freedom to speech. They said that's a violation of freedom to speech. I told them, look, if you do that, the court gonna throw it out. Governor Turnbull vetoed the bill. They came and override the veto. And I came to them again, I said, look, I don't want to go in front of the white people and make me and you arguing looking stupid. The people have a right, because they fought for the right on election to express themselves. After it's done, who wins. Went there, the judge heard it, he listened, and he asked me, he says, look, I live in Frenchman Bay. You mean if after 2 a.m. in the morning I was talking politics, I could go to jail too? I said, according to the way this bill is written, Your Honor. And he threw it out. You know what I'm saying? That's why I haven't been coming here, because you can't come to nobody and talk to them and talk a little sense with them and, oh, who you want? Who's you? I'm not into that. I'm into the truth I love my home, and it's time for us to stop playing games with each other. That's all I'm asking you all. You know what I mean? Read these things good, because it's a Senate already passed these bills for everything everybody here is saying. Okay? I'm still in court with them, 'cause I'm not playing with them.
Thank you, Mr. Beef, for your input, and we will do our research. St. Croix? And then we'll go to St. John.
Yes, we have another question.
I just have to really, it's not really a piggyback, I'm going to piggyback off what the gentleman just now said, because as far as, you know, this demolition and rebuilding and stuff like that, I just want to say, I was moved out of Paradise. I call it Paradise. You guys will know it as Louis C. Brown Villas. We named it Paradise. When we was leaving from Paradise, they stood on the court and they told us, this was in 2000, we got this meeting in 1999 because I got down in Williams Delight in 2001. I deemed them I need to start my year in Williams Delight. Had a choice of Mali or Williams Delight. And I mean I had a choice, because I always feel the way that they moved us out of Paradise was a illegal eviction. We had to choose. They didn't consider the fact of some of us in Williams Delight maybe had issues with people in Paradise. They just put them there. Some of the parents had to work real hard to make sure they didn't have no war when they made that decision to just split us up out of Paradise, send who went Aradias, send who went Mali, send who went Kennedy, wherever they went with. I wish I dig so hard I couldn't find that paper. They told us that we were supposed to move back into Paradise with single fine homes like what Williams Delight is built with, for us to be homeowners. You take a look at the building that they put there, it took 10 years before they rebuilt Louis C. Brown Villa. Now I'm hearing another 10 years. So it's kind of like a deja vu thing when I hear these years and what they're planning to do for us. And I moved in Williams Delight with the option to purchase. And me and a lot of fellow residents are still doing so. I know I spoke about the demolition. That part didn't reach yet. But I have some suggestions for that demolition. I have some questions as far as what deemed some of those homes on the demolition list. I have listed numbers of the apartments that I went and walk around and I see that have roofs on them that my roof can't touch. Abandoned apartments have well intact, beautiful, nice roof with it sealed up with nobody in there. There is something we could do, and I do agree with Ms. James. A lot of people, we paying over $500, close to $700 in rent. I like the plan that man just bring up about rent to own. That should have been, and that could be. I don't understand why not. And there are others that left out of Williams Delight that's still waiting to come back in. So that's something that we need to pick up on. And like I said, I love the information the gentleman gave from St. Thomas it is. Yeah, so that's something that we need to look up into as well.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Senator. We're going to go to St. John, and then we're going to come back to St. Thomas. St. John?
Thank you, Chairman. We have a question from Ms. Julia Mingo. Into the microphone, please. One moment.
On behalf of members working for the government over years, they dedicated their life for either being a fireman, teacher, a community worker out here.
Please speak into the mic.
They have paid their rent faithfully, and now 30 years come now, they have nowhere to go. If we are living in paradise and we are living in a community where things should be better, shouldn't this be a recommendation of some kind of credit score or just being on time and dedicated, knowing that their income is not as much as it's expected because you know what the salaries are. I feel that we should consider these people who have put in the time, worked hard, and pass it over to generation, knowing this could help a Virgin Islander or some Virgin Islander. Wouldn't you think so?
Thank you.
Thank
St.
you.
Thomas.
Very good.
I first want to give thanks for this opportunity, Senator Blyden, and your other colleagues in coming. I really would have liked to see more of the senators, but it's what it is, and I give thanks for those of you that are here in the concerns that we need. I am not living in the housing community, but I do have concerns. I do have solutions that maybe you would be able to take note of to include statements. First of all, I have not heard anyone speak about the homeless. The homeless, where we have thousands of people living on the street. Many of those people are not mentally ill. Many of those people are on the street because of no fault of their own, because of high rent. We have a community called Tutu Tonki. Are you all familiar with their beautiful building? I must say that because I have been in it. Yes, there was damage. Yes, there was concerns in terms of criminal activity, etc. But those units are strong. Those units, you can take an example from Patriot Manor. Are you familiar with Patriot Manor that have high-rise as well, that have strict guidelines? You seldom hear in Patriot Manor any criminal activity coming out of there. I can say because I lived there before I bought my home. It is a beautiful place. They have strict guidelines in place that you have to follow, is why you don't see too much criminal activity coming out. We have a 300, I show is over 300 units in Tonki that you all can rebuild, not break down, because those buildings, as you can see, is strong. Those buildings will be able to have us save monies in demolition, in renovating those buildings. Now, you speak about affordable housing. When we say affordable housing, I don't want to be when persons move into those apartments that 6 months, a year, even 5 years come around and you're raising the rent. Our people are hurting. You heard a young lady tell you she bring home $800. That $800 goes, part of it, most of it, to rent. She has 3 children. I could imagine the sufferation that she has and the scare in how this young lady going manage. Okay? Now, I heard you all spoke about workers. I continue here, you say, we don't have no laborers. I have seen Tatola when they had the 2 category 5. What did Tatola do? Tatola opened some units, if I'm not mistaken, in the university, pulling tradesmen and women or anyone that wants to train, whether in carpentry, electrical, plumbing, maintenance, etc., to be able to build their units, their community back. Why are we not having what you call a construction job fair? In that construction job fair, you will then be able to identify those people that wants to do trade in building our community back. I received from Senator Giddens, I will read it for him here, with a concern that he have, so I will read it in the record. While HUD is requiring that over-income households move out or pay higher rent, what is the VI Housing Authority doing to address the repairs to individual units and the buildings? Some of the units are in disrepair. Lastly, people are hurting. People need place to live. You have persons that, young people that come out of college, have jobs, still living in their family home, that want to be able to be independent, to live on your own, as well as the homeless, as well as many others that need affordable housing. What is going on with the Dunu community? Dunu, which I am a resident from for many years. Dunu, as you all know, was one of the best community in the Virgin Islands. Why was it like that? Because we had basketball tournament, we have talent shows, we had arts and crafts, we had, you name it, beach events. We were a family. That family was broken apart. That family should be the first to be able to have access to an apartment in the Dunu housing community. Senators, I beg of you, I understand what HUD have in terms of plan, but you are the ones that we are looking forward to help us to rectify this housing problem. And I give thanks.
Thank you so much for your comments. Before I go to St. John and then St. Croix, Ms. Pell, can you respond to the speaker in respect to preference when it comes to Dunu and Tutu High Rise, as a matter of fact, and the new development that's been put up in Dunu? Can you speak briefly to that, please, before I go to St. John, Ms. Pell? And
Well, currently at the Estate Dunu redevelopment and the Estate Tutu redevelopment projects that we have going on, those individuals that were former residents of Tutu prior to the storm of 2017, they have a first right to return.
very well. St. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a question from Ms. Abigail Hendricks.
Good evening. As you can see, our building is empty because we don't have any housing facilities on St. John. Cost of living on St. John is very high, especially among all three islands, we have the highest cost of living. In your annual plan, are there any provisions made to make housing available for St. John? Currently, you have 0 housing communities on St. John. I listen to my sister islands, and they're rattling off communities like potato chips in a bag. We don't have any. What are the provisions for St. John?
So the plan on the housing choice voucher side speaks to the authority proposing to put more vouchers on the island of St. John to be able to do that. Right now, construction of new housing is not in the plan for St. John. Remember what I said, the plan is only for 1 year. Things that that the authority plans to do it in 1 year. So for right now, St. John is not in this year's plan or the coming year's plan.
Well, Ms. Pell, you know I love you dearly, but that is unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. A slap in our face, a kick in our behind for the people who pay the highest taxes of the 3 islands. That is so unfair.
Thank you, and I do agree with you in respect to St. John not being in a plan, and as part of our oversight and our due diligence, we will write to HUD in respect to assuring that they can do something for St. John, because St. John do pay the highest taxes, their rents are the highest of all 3 islands, and we must do something for our residents on the island of St. John. We're going to go to St. Croix, and then we're going to come back to St. Thomas, okay? St. Croix?
Any question from you? Okay, hold, yes. You have a question. Go right ahead.
Blessed good evening, everyone. My name is Ashel Bellardo. I'm presently a resident of the Williams Delight from years. I was raised in Williams Delight from 12 years old. I started my family. I went out, rented, and decided I wanted to come back to live in Williams Delight because I wanted to be able to raise my children there and let them see where I was living for my childhood years. Home ownership came up. From 2013, I was to own my own home, and it didn't happen. 3 times I went up I went up to try to own my home. But because of time, you see, time is of the essence. And when the old people them say, time is money. Mike?
Yeah.
Senator Maurice, do you want to?
Give us a moment. We try the mic. While she was speaking, we're trying to fix the mic.
That's what I was asking, if you want to go back to come back to St. Thomas and then come back to St. Croix, or you want us to wait?
You may as well. Yes, Senator. Senator Blyden, go ahead, and then we'll come back to St. Croix.
Thank you so much. St. Thomas?
My name is Jeffrey August. I'm from the Boxholm community. What I have to say today is to include Boxholm in your annual
Plan.
Yeah. Now, what to include in your plan for the Boxholm community? Number 1, maintenance to be done in a timely fashion. The trees need to be trimmed so that the leaves and the seeds don't clog the guttering. And the pictures to give you an idea of what inspired, which I have the pictures on them here to do you have the pictures of that? 2 different pictures. Okay. And then at the back of the pictures, have a little note so that you could see really what's happening in the community. And then, first of all, I would like to say that the VIHA list is being violated by both parties. When I say parties, I mean the landlord and tenants without no regard. And then it needs to be revisited. Instead of Now, when it comes to cleaning up the communities, including Voucher, removing abandoned vehicles and unoperable vehicles, we have pictures there to show you what's happening in Voucher, right? Instead of, between that 1 year period, by the time the months that you start clearing out the place, before that month finished, they came right back with the next set, or those that was there, they take it out and they bring it back right away. So the place is always looking like a dump area. They come there, they make mechanics and things and so forth, and all the old parts and them still around the place and so forth. This is not good at all. And then some managers, they don't care. Others are perfect. Like one I know that used to be in null content. And if you go to null content, you'll be the clean like some other places like Patriot Manor, as the young lady mentioned. Those places clean. No problem, no unoperable vehicles, no abundant vehicles on the place, and everything else. They're clean and nice. If your food fall down on the ground, you could take it and eat. But you can't do that in Voucher and Harris Court and all of them. And I'm more interested in Voucher.
Okay, let me have Mr. Farmer respond to your concerns. Thank you so much.
Good night. Jimmy Farmer, Director of Asset Management. Mr. Lucas, you bring up some very, very good points. You mentioned that there's the perception that some of the property managers don't care about the property. It's far from true. Let's talk about these abandoned vehicles within not just the Berks home community, but public housing communities throughout St. Thomas, public housing communities throughout St. Croix. It's gotten to the point where when our managers are tagging vehicles that are inoperable, sitting on crates, sitting on center blocks, sitting on tires, it's a health and safety hazard, not just to the resident, but at the end of the day, it's a health and safety hazard for kids, okay? Kids are inquisitive. They like to touch and feel things. When I lay my head down at night and I know that I've seen a vehicle that's jacked up on center blocks, it sends something through my soul. And so when the property managers tag these vehicles, when I give them the directive to tag the vehicle, they're simply doing their job. But what happens? They're accosted, they're cursed at, they're threatened. I don't want you to think for 1 second the managers are not doing their job. They're doing their job. But now we have gotten to the point where we have to engage the Virgin Islands Police Department to help tag vehicles. It shouldn't be like that. They're simply doing their job. Right now, what has been explained to the Virgin Islands Housing Authority is that there's nowhere to put these vehicles. I believe as of this week, the St. Croix District is working with identifying space. But we're going to continuously stay on the St. Thomas administrator to help us as it relates to tagging and towing these vehicles to minimize some of that administrative burden on our staff. Let's talk about some of these unresolved work orders and maintenance issues that you brought up. Okay? Currently, there's about, between both districts, 1,900 or so outstanding work orders. 90-plus days old, I would say at least 2 to 3 years, that's currently in the hopper, and that's what we're working on resolving. What the Housing Authority is moving towards, and we've outlined it in the annual plan, it's new for us, is definitely going to be new for the residents. And so that's why it's important that we engage in this level of conversation so that you're clear on what the plan of action is on the Housing Authority's part and what the expectation is for residents. We're going to be in these units. more often. And it's very specific, quarterly, 4 times a year. 4 times a year, we're going to be in these units inspecting, not just inspecting and noting deficiencies, writing it down, but resolving them, okay? Currently, the Housing Authority has between both districts $200 million in maintenance deficiencies. Our budget, maybe $50 million. So it's going to be impossible for us to fix $200 million of outstanding maintenance deficiencies on a penny budget. So we have to tackle what's most important: leaks, health and safety concerns within your apartment units, okay? Some of the residents have taken a stance that, you know what? I'm not going to pay my rent until you fix X, Y, Z in my apartment unit, okay? That's holding the Housing Authority accountable, but you have to do it the right way. If you want to withhold your rent, you can't just stick it under your mattress or save it in the account. You have to put it into what we call a court escrow. There's a way to hold the Housing Authority accountable, but you have to do it the right way. Because when we go to court and we see that there is an escrow account established by you, the Housing Authority, if we know that there is money in the account, and not even knowing there's money in the account, we want to make sure we get the money that's owed to us. One way to hold the Housing Authority accountable is putting your money into a court escrow, as opposed to just saying, I'm not going to pay my rent. As opposed to saying, I'm not going to pay. I apologize. I don't want to take up too much time, but I do understand your frustration, sir, as it relates to the outward appearance of the community. At the end of the day, you just want to make sure you come home to something comfortable and you can be proud that you call home, okay? The Housing Authority and my property managers in both districts are working to get the issues resolved. Sometimes their hands are tied as it relates to how fast certain processes are moving. But I don't want you leaving here, sir, thinking that they're not doing their jobs, okay? I think there's another question.
Thank you. We got to go back to St. Croix. We need to go back to St. Croix. St. Croix?
Thank you, Senator Blyden. Right ahead. You can hear me? Okay. Blessed good evening again. My name is Ashel Bellardo. I'm presently a resident at the Williams Light community. I'm also on the resident council. And I was just, everybody have their story. I'm not here to just put all my laundry out, but I have some concerns. Concerns pertaining to time. Like I was saying, from 2013 until present 2023, trying to own my home, apartment 202. 3 times I went to lenders, got approved, and the windows got closed because time. I am presently going through the process. Time again. When I enter meetings with the Virgin Island Housing Authority, being that I'm a council member, I usually say that your language, you need to explain it to me because I don't understand their language. So many paperwork have passed through my hands. Language changes from one extreme to the next. Ms. Maynard and I have had tracking information from the 2013 till our present, and things have changed. Just like Ms. James said, so is our income. Our income has changed as well. Concern with me is, suppose I don't get approved for home ownership, but I'm paying over $800 in rent. Where do I go with my disabled son? That's 1. 2, I am a paying resident. I live next to an
abandoned home. I pay to cut my grass and still pay to cut the grass next to me that's not mine. Because I don't want unwanted visitors in my area. And we know what that is. Rats, centipedes, roach, and you can name them. I'm not here to put anybody underneath the bus, but I am concerned with what's really going on with the Virgin Island Housing Authority. Even if I do become a homeowner, I'm still going to be concerned about it. Why? Because that's where I live. That's where I live, you know, and I'm paying my money to be able to live comfortable. The young man in St. Thomas, I agree with you. When you take a drive around the different community, no taste in my taste buds for that. Miss Maydad could tell you, I'm not OCD, but you better believe if I put that sanitizer container there, that's where I expect to see it, and clean. No dripping, no nothing. And if I am doing that in my household, I think around me should be able to be looking like that too, because I'm paying my $800 and plus every month. Like I said, it's a concern. And we need to really address that ASAP. 2013, 2023, and I'm still waiting. Please, let's try to change. Let's try to make people feel comfortable if they are renters or if they are homeowners. Because you pay for your money what? I feel. Everybody like to feel comfortable. That's what I have to say. Good night. Good night.
Thank you for your comments.
Blyden, can we go ahead with one more? Or you have someone? Okay.
We do, but please go ahead, and then I'm going to do two on this side. Go ahead. And then I'll do two on this side.
Okay.
Good night. My name is Zontoya Franklin, and I am the Family Self-Sufficiency Coordinator for the Virgin Islands Housing Authority, the program known as FSS. Senator Blyden did ask about the program earlier, and Ms. Pell did share some information, and I just wanted to add some additional information about the FSS program. We have a minimum of 25 slots for the territory, but our goal is to get to serving at least 35. Now, I know it doesn't seem like a very high number. However, the amount of intensive services that are provided over a 5 to 10 year period means that there's only so many people that can be accommodated. However, we have people who are coming into the program and rolling out of the program all the time. The focus of the program is to assist individuals to increase their earning potential. And that can be through vocational training, education, certification, or opening their own business. Individuals who are able to increase their earning potential through these means, of course, will see an increase in what they're earning, but that always corresponds to an increase in rent. And so with this program, individuals have the opportunity to have that rent set aside by the Housing Authority if they're in public housing, or reimbursed through the Housing Authority if they're in Section 8, in order to save those funds until they complete the program. And at the end of the program, those individuals are given those funds to use how they please. Most individuals in the Virgin Islands are interested in moving into home ownership. It is not a requirement, but that is something that they're interested in and they value, and they can use those funds, and graduates from the program have done so. We pay out thousands of dollars every year to individuals to assist with their goals, and on May 19th, I held a workshop in the Williams Delight community to make Williams Delight tenants aware of the program and give them the chance to apply and potentially enroll in the program and use any funds garnered while in the program to move towards homeownership. So I just wanted to let you know that this is one way in which the Housing Authority is looking to assist individuals living in the Williams Delight community to move to homeownership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Blyden.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Testing. Yes, good evening. Good evening, Senators, viewing and listening audience. My name is Stephen Hodge Jr., concerned citizen. I actually, one of your previous constituents had also spoken, but what I want to read is briefly before I get to the two questions. HUD releases $85 million funding opportunity to remove barriers to building housing and announces new tools to build and repair affordable housing. So HUD has a lot of capacity. It's up to us to really take advantage of it. Okay, as a child, I was in Bluebirds Apartments. My mother actually purchased a home in Annos Retreat as well. And I listened to a lot of the commentary. It's something that, in my opinion, HUD needs, or at least housing needs to go back to, because it's a faster process. You're paying, the rent goes directly to housing. It's a lower finance rate. Even when you look at the cost of property, we need to make it happen for us. If not, it's going to be too late. We had conversation in reference to the 3,000 residents. Okay, what I would like to know is how many individuals, or how many of those residents are actually on the voucher program? How are they going to be transitioning into any of the new properties that are being developed? And for the balance, how are they going to be transitioning either to residential homes, or is there a separate voucher program that has been considered but has not really been made public? The other item, and the last one, you had spoken to the third party, okay, as it relates to administrative cases, hearings, etc. My suggestion is, here in the territory, we have a major lack of administrative law judges. That's where there's the PERB, the Department of Labor. So you have the Judicial College and also NAHO, the National Association of Hearing Officials. So the Virgin needs to build capacity. When we pay a third-party fiduciary or anyone to provide those services, it is not cost, it's too much money. It costs us too much money, and we can actually have it in-house with individuals who are actually credentialed. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Can anyone from Halton respond to his two inquiries?
Through you, Chief Operating Officer, Ms. Pell, I can respond to a couple of those, however you desire to handle it.
We're going to have to take them, Mr. Farmer and myself. So let me just start about the appropriation by HUD, the $85 million the gentleman discussed. So it goes back to this plan. The Housing Authority can do nothing without this plan. Everything we do at the Housing Authority, HUD looks at the plan. Is it in the plan? Is it in the plan? Has it been approved? Has the plan been approved? If it's not in the plan, we have to go back through this public process again. So that $85 million is it's an appropriation for housing authorities. But again, even if HUD were to appropriate the money, the first thing they're gonna look at is the action that the housing authority, was it in the plan? And that's why we need your comments again on things that we should add to the plan. So we take your comment very seriously, and it will be added to the plan. So I'll let Mr. Farmer add. I don't really have a response in regards to your comment, but it's well taken.
Again, Jimmy Farmer, Director of Asset Management. I did want to speak on your concern relative to the hearing officers. Just so that you're aware, the Housing Authority has a difficult time trying to get local vendors to do work. When we put out the request, we do advertise locally. However, in terms of the response and the timely response of when they should respond relative to if they're interested in doing the work for us, someone said it best, time is of the essence. And when we put it out and there's a specific date that you must respond to or respond by, if you're interested in doing work, there's no wiggle room from a procurement policy in terms of receiving something 5 days afterwards. We're very specific in terms of having that date set. We want local talent to be able to apply, even for jobs. And I'm going to do a plug for HR real quick. The Virgin Islands Housing Authority is hiring. Please go to our website, www.vihousing.org. If there is a position you are interested in, please apply. We are looking for the best. If it's maintenance, we are looking for the best. Property management, we want the best. End of plug. We want individuals to be able to respond, but they have to respond timely. And so the unfortunate thing is that we had to accept the bid from, it was a company from the States. It's actually two companies. We had 2 spots. My hope was that a local entity would take advantage of what we advertised, but we didn't get any response. And when it comes to grievances, this isn't something that we can just sit on and hope and pray and wait that someone's going to respond. And so if you see that there is an advertisement from the Virgin Islands Housing Authority relative to work that we're looking to get done within our agency, there's a deadline that we have to adhere to, okay? Thanks to our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Cecile Tong Foy, we have 0 audit findings when it comes to our financials. We like to pay our bills on time. So if there's a concern relative to whether or not the Virgin Islands Housing Authority is going to pay you for work that you've done, trust and believe, we like to make sure we keep our vendors paid, okay? There are a couple of other items, sir. I would encourage you to please include that in the response so that when we send it to our field office, that those are taken into consideration.
Thank you. You have one more question, and after that question, I want to go to Mr. Trigger quickly, briefly.
Good night. My name is Carmen Nicastro. I'm from Oswald Harris Court. I'm living there 60 years. So now my rent was like $300. My daughter moved her because it went up to 1,000 and change. Over 17, like 20 years she lived there where we paid 1,000 and change. What would my dilemma be in owning my own home now?
Mr. Farmer?
Just one question. Could she repeat what was her? I didn't hear that part.
She wanted to know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, ma'am, but she wanted to know what her dilemma would be, given that your daughter has moved out. Is that correct? And have a rent decrease, correct? Okay, and if you're interested in the home ownership program, you want to know what challenges you might have trying to purchase a home?
Correct.
No. I was, in terms of the home ownership process, I yield to Ms. Pell regarding the home ownership, because I think you're interested in purchasing a home. Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes, correct.
All right. I'd like to stay in my lane, so I yield to my Chief Operating Officer, Ms. Pell.
Good evening, ma'am. So you're in the St. Thomas district. So currently, your opportunity for homeownership is through the Housing Finance Authority. We currently do not have any sites on St. Thomas public housing for homeownership. If you have not been to the Housing Finance Authority, I would recommend that you start there through their homeownership program.
Okay.
Or the VI Slice program as well.
Thank you. Mr. Krieger, I'm going to give you a few minutes to close your portion when it comes to section 8. Please recognize Mr. Krieger's mic.
Thank you very much.
No, it's not. You're not on. Media.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thankfully, much of what I was going to summarize relative to public housing communities has already been covered in the question and answer. So I'm just going to take just a few short seconds to, if you can put the presentation back up, please. I'm going to take just a few short seconds to summarize the annual plan as it refers to the Housing Choice Vouchers. As you know, the Housing Choice Voucher Program is an extremely important part of affordable housing because it's a mechanism by which people get assistance to rent in the private market. Okay, there are a couple of changes being made relative to the Housing Choice Voucher Program, and from what we've read, they all engage trying to make more vouchers available and to try to increase landlord participation, because we have two separate but very real issues. One is the availability of vouchers, but more importantly, from what we've seen, is the availability of apartments and landlords. So we've got many people that have vouchers, but they can't find an apartment. So we have a two-pronged struggle going on that was trying to be met. One of the steps that is being taken is to increase the frequency of inspections, and of course that has to do with the quality of the living conditions and to make sure that everyone is in habitable apartments. And along those lines, they are also going to allow remote video inspections and allow in certain cases the owners to self-certify their units so that we can streamline that process. But additionally, we are looking, from what I understand, at expanding the possibilities for Housing Choice Voucher recipients to utilize those vouchers in a home ownership process, so that the payments that they make towards the same can go towards owning that home at some point. And I'm sure that Mr. Farmer will give us some more details as well as Ms. Pell. Lastly, going to be setting aside we're going to be eliminating the one-year requirement for eligibility for that home ownership program with the vouchers. We are also setting aside 25 vouchers for elderly and disabled Williams Light residents. And I'm going to be looking for some of our nonprofits to give us some questions and a presentation relative to some of the community issues with Housing Choice Vouchers, particularly in terms of the reentry program. And see with some of the specialty vouchers that are available, the mainstream vouchers, foster the youth independence, emergency housing vouchers, which we're going to hear a little more from, veterans vouchers through the MTOC program, and single room occupancy vouchers. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, the Housing Authority is going to be highlighting programs to increase landlord participation. Right now, there are a couple of incentives, including, I think, a $50,000 grant or loan program to do repairs. And there's also an incentive program for, I think, up to 2 months rent to landlords who agree to, make their apartments part of the Housing Choice Voucher program. With that, and additionally, and this is where we speak to Dr. Suzanne Dara-McGrath, who will be joining us in just a moment, the Housing Authority is going to be working more closely with the continuum of care and nonprofits to improve the referral process for emergency housing vouchers. And at this point, we would like to welcome Dr. Susan Dara-McGrath, who is the head of UVI Cell and also is a member of the Reentry Action Group, as they have a statement to read into the record.
Thank you, and good evening, Senators, and good evening to the listening and viewing audience. My name is Dr. Suzanne Dara-McGrath. I am the director of UVI Cell, and I'm here today on behalf of the UVI Cell and Bureau of Corrections Reentry Action Group and the Reentry Housing Work Group Subcommittee. Over the past 4 years, UVI Cell has worked closely with the Bureau of Corrections to offer in-facility and reentry education services. To date, we have graduated over 50 students with our accredited high school diploma program and our industry-recognized career certification programs. We prepare incarcerated individuals for the workforce and identify reentry-friendly employment opportunities to help individuals re-engage into society. Despite our best efforts to support education, employment needs, and cognitive behavioral needs, in many instances, returning citizens are homeless upon release. They often cannot return home if they were in public housing due to current VIHA policies around criminal records. They are not eligible for housing vouchers due to their records and the same VIHA policies. The shelters often will not accept them due to their criminal records, and there are no beds available. With no other choice, the BOC releases individuals to the street where they have no other choice but to reoffend in order to survive. As a community, we need to take responsibility for public safety and the role that we all play in perpetuating cycles of crime and violence. Being in the corrections education business comes with a lot of criticism. We are seen as soft on crime, but this is far from the case. If you do the crime, you should do the time. But 90% of incarcerated people return home. And who do you want returning home to live next to you? Someone that's even more damaged and traumatized from their incarceration experience and a hardened criminal, or someone who is rehabilitated, ready for employment, ready to engage with their families and make amends. Over the past year and a half, myself, along with other members of the Reentry Action Group, we joined the Continuum of Care Board to understand how the system works. Due to our Continuum of Care not having the HUD-mandated coordinated entry system in place, the U.S. Virgin Islands is unable to take advantage of millions of dollars in HUD funding that would allow for the creation of emergency, transitional, and permanent supportive housing for the homeless and for our returning citizens. Despite our best efforts, we have seen minimal improvements with the Continuum of Care, with meetings often canceled, agenda items tabled, and important initiatives put on hold. We are happy to see that there is support for the Continuum of Care in the plan, with one sentence on page 31. A lot more is needed in this area. We also need active VIHA representation on the Continuum of Care. Within the plan, we need to ensure that the Continuum of Care is fully supported with additional staffing to support the work. The Continuum of Care relies on volunteers to do this work, and this is not effective or sustainable. Support for the homeless through the Continuum of Care should be a paid position through the Department of Human Services and the Virgin Islands Housing Authority. The Virgin Islands Interagency Council on Homelessness was established within the Department of Human Services by an executive order of Governor Charles W. Turnbull and reestablished by Governor Bryan in 2019. And this serves as the single territorial resource for homelessness planning and policy development. And this organization has not met for several years. And this needs to be addressed as a priority and included in the strategic plan. In April 2023, HUD outlined requirements that public housing agencies must ensure that people are not denied the opportunity to access housing due to a criminal history record. As a reentry action group, we have been waiting for the Housing Authority to issue new policy changes for voting on by the Virgin Islands Housing Authority Board. We have yet to be updated on progress on this or to see any evidence of changes. Mr. Farmer, during the recent committee hearing, you said that individuals with criminal records were reviewed on a case-by-case basis. Where are the new policies? We'd appreciate seeing these. I thank you again for the opportunity to share our perspective on the Virgin Islands Housing Authority strategic plan, and we appreciate your support to move the items addressed forward.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. McGrath. Any response from the Housing Authority in respect to those comments on the plan?
Yes, Senator, excuse me? So the Housing Authorities just sit on the committee as the reentry committee. We do have representative that comes to those meetings. So I continue to advocate for Ms. Marsh to, again, have her comments in the plan. While the plan does not currently address this initiative that is needed on the policy change, her comments will be such that it would be included in the plan for consideration.
Very well. Thank you. What I'm going to do is 8:50. What I'm going to do, I'm going to have St. Croix. I'm going to let St. Croix. If you have any comments, do you have any comments, St. Croix? Because I have several on St. Thomas. Okay, very well. St. Croix, you
Yeah,
recognize?
one person, yeah, I'm Senator Blayden, one more.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good evening. Good evening, and thank you all for hosting this, whatever y'all want to call it, because I've been through quite a few of these. My name is Troy Mason. I was just born into Williams Delight. I own a house down in the private section. No, I don't live in there, but Williams Delight, who was dear to me, that's why I continue to come to these town halls and all of this. But on 3 different occasions now, I've heard about them selling the houses in Williams Delight. And I seriously said, I don't feel y'all want to sell these houses, because I feel like y'all running around in circles. I've spoken to y'all many times about it. I mean, I do the math. I look at this beautiful, pretty paper that y'all have here with a lot of, to me, irrelevant information on it. Because I listened to Mr. Farmer, and he says something about they believe in hiring locally and getting local, and they can't find local contractors. I have to say that he's lying to you in here. Because I know 3 different contractors that has worked on the Williams Delight houses, and all 3 of them I know personally, still waiting for more work from you. So don't say I can't find our local contractors. That's a lie.
That's not what he was referring to, though.
He said you can't find
He
local
said it was
contractors.
vendors for the grievance process.
He said local contractors. I
said local vendors. Sorry.
He said local contractors. I was kind of listening. If he said the wrong thing, tell him he could correct it after, you know what I mean? But I heard him say that there. I look at this new 10-year plan. 10 years ago, y'all came out and y'all say y'all have 82 houses to sell. According to this, y'all only sold 35 houses. So that's about roughly 3 to 4 houses a year. The prices, y'all gave the prices of these houses. If I'm not wrong, the prices y'all were selling those houses for was 22,000 and change, 24,000 and change, and 32,000 and change. They were being sold by how much rooms they have in them, right? And you telling me you couldn't get 82 houses sold? Y'all even gave a step plan of how and who you're selling the houses to. Basically, I heard a lady come up here and talk about public officials like police officers, nurses, and those who work in that public. That was on y'all's plan. Did y'all ever get to those people? Because I know if y'all got to them, these houses should have been sold by now. It has been so much roundabout. So you're telling me that you're able to rent a young lady a house for $600 a month. If you do the math, she's paying about $7,200 a year. You only charging 22. She should be able to pay half the house in roughly, what, 3-4 years? But she doesn't qualify to buy the house. Come on, man. Be real with the people then. That's how I feel. Be real. If y'all want to sell them, sell them. Come on, come out and just sell the houses straight up. Because if you do the math, 82 houses times, let's say, average of $30,000, that's a little over $2.5 million. It's not the 85 million or the 10 billion you're looking for. No, it's only $2.5 million for them to sell it. Come on, these people, they have jobs. Now you're watching me and telling me, oh, that now y'all going to look into getting people to, y'all talking about raising minimum wage and all of this. Y'all don't have to go all of there. Sell the houses. I've heard a lot of residents say that they want to buy the house as is. You could sell it to them as is. Lawyers, contracts, as is. Get rid of the houses. Sign Farm was sold, right? Yes or no? That's a question.
I don't know.
Sign Farm was sold, Monbiju was sold. Those were always all public housings, public housing once upon a time. They were sold. And what did the residents do when they bought them? They repaid them. And watch how they look now. Why this one ain't moving forward? 10 years ago, you came with a plan, and I drive through Williams-Light almost every day, and it looked the exact same. And now you have a 10-year plan. If we got to wait 10 years, I could guarantee you, the next 82, some of them will become, like you all say, structurally unsound to sell. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, we're going to come back to St. Thomas. We have several questions briefly, and then I'm going to give my colleagues a chance to ask a question, because they've been here all night, and they're going to ask questions in respect to the plan, but you may proceed.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, senators, housing representative, and all the residents.
Speaking to the mic. Speaking to the mic.
Yeah, try and get rid of housing in like 8 years, if I'm not wrong. It's like a Russia and Ukraine situation. We already paid for these houses in rent, the lady, 60 years. I live in there 25 years. And getting rid of these houses, what she really mean about owning a house is not a house any place. We try and get home ownership for OHC. And like Mr. Habib said, these buildings are some of the strongest housing building. We rescue all communities during the hurricane, and getting rid of them and nowhere to put us, that's a big, situation. Yeah, so thanks for the little opportunity.
Thank you for your comments. We have a next individuals who want to share.
We have, sorry. We have one on St. Croix, one more.
Okay. I'll let you go, and then we'll go to St. Croix, and then we'll come back.
I do want to make a correction, though. Zion Farm was not public housing. Zion Farm was built to sell to homeowners. It was a successful home ownership program, actually, that we need to consider doing again in St. Croix. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marilyn Joy Carson. I am the transitional case manager at the Bureau of Corrections. I just want to piggyback off for Dr. Susan McGrath. Trying to get the guys housing. I'm batting 1,000. They tell me there's 3 vouchers out there. I apply for the vouchers. I don't hear back. Something has to be done, because we have people. I have a guy right now sleeping in a cemetery in Frederickstead, and I have another one that told me he has to reoffend in order to have housing. Something has to be done. I don't know if it's where the government will pay, will set aside some housing for our people returning, or look into some of the other programs that they have in the States, like the Delancey Street program, where they're self-efficient. There's ways of housing. I came from the States. We need to come together with people maybe that own homes, or landlords that will take people. If there's abandoned building, we have people that can actually do the work, just like Dr. McGrath said. We're educating our guys, and they can do the work themselves. You may get where you don't need to use a lot of government money. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I like your comment. Thank you. I like your comment. We need to talk. So we need to not have it in a group setting. We need to have a one-on-one with the Housing Authority and the reentry. Okay? Okay.
Thank you for sharing.
And you're correct, but the entire community needs to come together.
Yes.
Entire community, different agencies, departments, nonprofits, all of us. Senator Blaney?
Thank you.
Hello? Everyone can hear me? Good day, everyone. My name is Anelia Foy. My parents, I live in Oswald Harris Court. My parents, my grandparents lived there from the time they used to call, we know housing as red brick. This is before, like, from way back then. And I also been living in Oswald Harris Court 44 plus years. Now, I'm hearing all the time, St. Croix, William Delight, home ownership, stuff like that. It bothers me because right now I want to catch a flight and go St. Croix and see if I could own one of them homes myself. Now, drawing back to what Mr. Abif was talking about, that Oswald Harris Court and many people in there feel the same way I feel. Home ownership is a must. We need it. We deserve it. We pay rent beyond measures, and we're still at the same spot. Now, Oswald Harris Court is flat house, 3 stories and 2 stories. If it do pass that we do get the home ownership, the 3 stories and 2-story buildings and the people that living in there also with like that privilege of owning where they're at, if that's all you can do. Because like I said, it's still a step forward of owning your own. Now, in consideration of listening to William Delight, if you guys could, like you said, you're putting the old people home or you're building up an old people home in the field, that could be more flat houses for people that have been living in Oswald Harris Court 20 plus years. More flat houses. Because we deserve it. And where are we going to go? What are we going to do? If we go to the bank to get the loans, some of we are not going to get it. Period, point blank. Even if we're working as hard as a lot of people out there is working, we're not making it. We're not making that type of money. Maybe because we don't have the education and the top level. Maybe because we don't know many people like other people know people. It's just not fair. I'm listening over and over. This is a community meeting, but it seems to be more on St. Croix owning homes. St. Thomas, Oswald Harris Court, needs home ownership. 3-story, 2-story, flat house. All of we is one. We deserve that. I mean, do something. You understand? It was there before. It's still there. Look into it. That's all.
Thank you for your comments. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give my colleagues a moment to ask. Okay, let me take that question quickly, and then we're going to go to my colleagues to ask questions briefly. And I'm going to start, when we start, I'm going to start with Senator DeGraff, then Senator Joseph, Senator Gittins, then Senator Fonseca. I'm not sure if Carrion is in St. Croix still. And then Carrion. Okay. Okay, very well. You may proceed.
Blessed evening. Everybody can hear me? That good? Okay. I really don't have no questions, really. I just wanted to make some statements. I just came over from Tatola, honestly. I just buried my aunt, you know. And within the time, I saw my bless her soul, but this year, in January, she had found out she had cancer. And she went to the government or whatever the case might be. She had signed up, like probably, I want to say late last year, she had signed up for a house. They started to build a house within a month and a half, her house was finished. My aunt died before she could have even moved into her house. It's the government that did it. And they did it for numerous other people that live there. So I'm saying that to say this. I moved into Loveland. Oh, sorry, did I say my name? I said my name?
No.
My name is Camilla Hughes. I do PR, rep for Loveland Apartments and Amali Terrace and everything of that nature. I formulated our Tenants Association for here and St. John. Now, I did that because from 2005, I moved into Loving Land, but I think Loving Land was built probably in 2004, 2003, I could be mistaken. But we was under the pretense that we was going to be able to be homeowners. Yes, and also we had St. John, they had Bellevue Apartments, and Calabash Boom. I think Calabash Boom came through with their homeownership, but everybody else, as soon as 2017 hit, we had the 2 hurricanes and stuff, and homeownership just went kaboof. You know what I mean? It was no more talking about homeownership, it was nothing. I did get to speak to Senator Blyden, and we tried to get on the board of dealing with homeownership, but because of mismanagement and, I mean, we probably went through 15 managers, and you know what I mean? People don't know what's going on, and we have to try to go from the beginning again. It was just craziness. So we right now, up to this day, can't even deal with our homeownership. But that's not even the biggest problem. Because if we do become homeowners, our apartments still need to be fixed. From since 2017, we still fighting for people to come fix it. But the funny part is, let's go, here's the kicker. This year, in 1 year, we literally had 2 times they actually raised people rent. About not just $100, $50, something like that. No, like $200, $300. But you can't come fix that. You can't even fix the window for us. You can't even come and fix the roof that's probably falling in. You can't even do what you need to do. And mind you, these is people who've been paying. We don't have no problem because for us to be able to live in these places, we had to be under a certain structure. We had to be like middle class, middle income, whatever the case might be. So we don't have no problem paying our rent. We never had a problem paying our rent. But what we have a problem is now you want to raise rent on top of us, right? And you can't even fix the place. That's a problem. And I'm going to tell you now, I'm even going to speak after Loving Land or for Bellevue, Amali Terrace, Grandview, all of us that is there and in this situation. Because we in this situation from since 2017. It's 2023. Gosh, 5 years. And you can't even, huh? It was what? It's 6 years. Me counting, I just telling you what the time is. That's crazy. You understand? But me even going to speak, I ain't not speaking about me right now either. I mean, with our properties. I ain't going to speak on that. I going to go after Aswell Harris Court right now too. Sorry, because I have an aunt that is there, and she been living there for a very long time. She have mental issues, so she can't speak for herself. You understand? But I'm going to speak for her today. I've been in her unit, and I have a problem. I can't go, if I want to go and cool with my aunt, and I just like, okay, let me go take a shower. The shower, the water cold, the heating, walking, these type of things. The pressure is limited. It's ridiculous. You understand? Like a family don't even really want to come there and just sit down with her or even go and visit her. They don't come and stay by me. And then I still have problems. You see what I'm saying? But it's a problem for us right now to keep hearing, let's raise this and let's raise this thing and let's do this and do that. But then, again, we don't have no problem. If I raise our salaries, great. If you raise, the way I taking care of us, even better. You understand? We won't have no problem in dealing. But you can't come and tell me that are you fixing nothing or doing what I'm supposed to do, and then I want us to keep paying out our pocket. That's unfair and it's unjust. You understand? And this government is ridiculous. And just like I say, I set the example in the beginning with Tatola. 1 month, 1.5 months, my aunt had an apartment that the government built for her. Our government have us here like we just struggling, and that's what we're supposed to do. And it's a hurtful thing. It's a hurtful thing because I want us to vote for IU. I want us to deal with IU. But IU dealing with us. I dealing with us mess up. You understand? And I'm sorry. I don't have no questions because I don't think I'm going to get no answers. Sorry to say. But I have a blessed night.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hughes. What I'm going to do now is go to my colleagues to ask a few questions. Very well. One more question, and then I'm going to go to my colleagues.
Yeah, I want to conclude my my concerns and so forth. VI Housing need to hire electricians, plumbers, and landscapers, and not helpers. Good. When come to emergency, since 81, 82, I'm in housing communities, and I have been emergency personnel down in Bugs Home, after hours, weekends, and holidays. And sometimes midnights, they come and knock my door to open for them, or whatever, clogging, whatever the problem is. If it is something that I cannot handle, then I call fire, right? And the tenants get reliefs and whatever it is right away. And now, when the number that they gave us is that is Puerto Rico answering. Sometimes they answer you in Spanish and telling you, ¿qué pasa? And you out there dying. You can't get inside your apartment. Just like some time ago, I heard on the radio on Lucky 13 that the woman bawling, and she is outside. They call Puerto Rico answering. What is going on in public housing? This is ridiculous. Right? Now, we have some of the safety lights out there. It just comes on by itself and everything like that. But then, since a time, I think it was last year, sometime last year, WAPA goes off for about a whole night. And when it do come back now, half of the lights in Boxham comes on, the other half blinking like police lights and everything else. This is ridiculous. Where are the electricians that housing had before? Where are they? If they retire, well, replace them. Don't have helpers, then they don't know what to do. And next example again, I have a problem in my apartment in the laundry part. This one switch control the kitchen fixture and the one in the laundry. Right? Now, this gone bad. And I had to change the whole thing and put a next fixture. Now, those guys comes in now, and I told them that, well, I want the switch to control one and the other one control on a next switch. They say that, well, they cannot do that, they don't know how to do it, and blah, blah, blah. I'll have to go back to housing, go back to the manager and complain. Several times, and it's not one.
Mr. Ogis. Mr. Ogis, I appreciate your concern, and please, and for all other tenants and residents also, please do not forget to voice your concerns and submit them, because that's why we're here. That's very important. We cannot cover everything in this town hall meeting because we don't have that much time. But I ask you to please submit your concerns and your comments of the plan to the Housing Authority. Okay, that's very important. I'm going to have Mr. Victor go quickly, and then I'm going to have my colleagues do their round because we got to close out by 9 o'clock. We should have closed by 8, but I asked them for extra time. So, Mr. Victor. Victor Joseph, but no, Victor is his name. Yeah. So please voice your concern, and then we're going to go to my colleague.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Victor Joseph.
Yes, Mr. Joseph.
I am a recipient of the HCVP program. I live at the
Celestino
White property. We have a concern, and I think I have brought it up on many occasions. There are 80 senior people living there. We have 2 buildings. One elevator has 5 floors, the other one has 4 floors. Now, I have, since Hurricane Maria, I have brought it up. There was a representative from the Michael's organization who came down once. We had a meeting at the office. I brought it up. When Miss Nicholas was there, the first manager, I brought it up. What I'm saying is there are senators here, and you all have to work on something for us residents. My concern is as much as the other residents. And out of the 80 people living there, you see me, I look young, but I'm 73. Okay? There are people there older than me. There are sick people. There are some people on wheelchairs. Okay? There is a generator generating electricity. When WAPA lights go off, the generator comes on. The generator gives the laundry, the office building, and the elevators lights. The residents, the tenants in there have no lights. The people are sick. Okay? They cannot, and we cannot bring in a gas stove. Everything there is electricity. People there cannot boil a kettle of water. Okay? And the generator, I did my own investigation into the generator. It has a generation capacity that can give both buildings current. It is powerful enough that the whole building can get current. And something has to be done. Because 2 weeks ago, a transformer blew off. We didn't have light for almost a whole 8 hours. What are the people going to do? Something has to be done about it. And I also want to say there's one lady who mentioned something about the units in Tonki. I did a small stint with housing division in the maintenance department. And I had the occasion to go in there and do many repairs. Demolishing those structures to do anything, it's a waste of money. All they have to do now, because some of the buildings, I look at them, I still look at them as one of the strongest set of housing structures around St. Thomas. Okay? All they have to do is to put back windows and things on the buildings and give tenants, give residents the buildings, instead of demolishing them. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you so much for your comments and your concerns. I'm going to go briefly to St. Croix. Senator Carrion, you have any questions in terms of the housing plan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank you for holding this town hall along with the Virgin Islands Housing Authority. Not the only concerns, a lot of things have been raised here, and we've been hearing complaints from residents that I think are important, and they have to continue voicing their concerns. But one of the things that really stood out to me also is the fact that when residents are asked to move out because their unit is going to be demolished or closed off, many of the times they're told that they will have first preference to move back or first preference somewhere else. And that is shared in meetings, town hall groups, but that's not the case. And we hear it after different projects. And are those agreements done in writing to these individuals as they move out? Or is just verbally? Because we're lying to our community when we tell them, you'll have first preference. And we have people that have gone through it and have testified that that has not been the case. So, Ms. Pell?
Senator, I could only speak for what's before us. Anything that was done in the past, unfortunately, I can't speak to. But currently, those right to returns are in writing. It's part of the HUD approval for the relocation and the redevelopment. If it's something that was done in the past, I don't know what to say.
Well, I'm glad to hear that now they're in writing and that's given to the tenants. Very well.
Thank you, Senator Carrion. Senator James, Maurice James.
Thank you, Senator Blyden. I'm going to give my time to Mother Nile.
I appreciate you, Senator James, and I'm not going to stay long. I just want to close out by saying thank you for Senator Blyden for hosting this meeting. And yeah, this is my first time coming to one of these meetings, but I've always been a person to voice my opinion and what I think is fair and just for us as a people. In closing, I just want to say some suggestions that I could have as far as our Williams Elite, and I do understand my St. Thomians and my St. Jonians. I do hope and pray that you guys are able to become homeowners, same way we fighting over here. And yes, there are communities over here, not only Williams Elite, but Kennedy is in a disgraceful situation. My brother worked in Kennedy I graduated in 1993. My brother worked in Kennedy in, I think, 1989, 1990. And because my brother worked in Kennedy for like 3 months, housing back charged my mom. And when my mom died, they tried to take that money from me. That's another story. But anyway, because I have a long history with VIA housing. I don't mean it, me and Pell have a communication as well too, but it's just not her. It's the whole entity when I say VIA. And if I do use her term, Ms. Pell, it's just because we have a relationship. However, in closing, I would like to say, what I do think they should do instead of demolish the units, I have some suggestions. Because I did my own foot ground. Some of those units do not need to be demolished. I had on my list about 7 of them. I put a check mark where you could see the roof is actually crumbling. Yeah, those could be demolished. The homes on the east side is where they're looking to really demolish. But a lot of those homes over there have good roofs. Some of them was painted and fixed back in 2015, 2016, I think, after that, when they had just started to bring back in the plan when they painted the front streets, when I think Rick, that was coming through to give us points if we're going to fail or make it. Yeah, they came in there and didn't Williams, they're like, awesome and beautiful, but guess what? They stopped. I don't know if they passed or not. Anyway, moving on with that, my suggestions would be, how about you guys, before you guys convert us into homeowners, do you realize that the area in which we needs to look like a housing community? How about if, first of all, our roads need to get fixed, our lights need to be put back. I was even thinking on the community for us to even try get some sidewalks, because I was cheering them to walk to and from their homes to the bus stop. When you fix up a community, even if there are abandoned units there, if you fix up those abandoned places, it will allow people to come in to want to purchase them. Yeah. You could always put them up as far as, let me use the right word. You ever seen storage wars? Yeah. Put the homes up for action. I have an idea how you could come up with a price to set the actions. All of those homes have cisterns. Those cisterns work, because I tell you, I see people come in there and scoop up water and load up the whole truck. So those cisterns for some of those abandoned buildings are accessible and working. And if you say you're going to knock them down and only put up half of what you're knocking down, what's going to happen to those systems that's there for the rest of the homes? That's something you need to think of. And I'm guarantee you, if you put those homes up for action, on the listing in which you said, which is the people who are there, the ones who left, the military and veterans, and then the outsiders, I guarantee you those homes would go. Another thing is, as far as you guys looking for contractors with license, stop. Because I could tell you the Dominican and Lucian, them, some of them don't have no degree, but ain't nobody could build a house like them. And then on the fact of the matter, when you talk about those homes being old, how they're gonna be old and they're standing after 60 years? They went to Hugo, they went to a 5-cat. Come on, you understand me? You guys do not need to demolish those homes. And in the process of you thinking of what you could do, how about you guys building us take 1 or 2 of those units and make them into laundries. Put a laundry on the west side, a laundry on the east side for the residents there. There are things that you could do with these homes. Make not one into storage for us to store things for hurricane season. Now when hurricane season come, Williams the Light family has to go no place. Okay? So instead of you guys thinking and demolishing them, listen to some of our plans. I have all of this to email to whomever needs to hear it. But again, thank you guys for holding this meeting, and I hope you guys do take in consideration and everything these residents and these people put out here, because it's coming from our heart. You understand? We love our home and we love our people, and we want to have a peaceful community and own our homes, most definitely.
Definitely. Thank you. Well said. I couldn't have said it better. My only question was going to go for Shabert, and where do the people for Shabert go since you're transferring land to the government? That's my understanding. So where would those people go?
So those individuals that are former residents of Dishabert, they have a right to return to the new development that we're doing for the land swap for the Dishabert property, because we cannot build residential because of the blast zone study that was done because of the location of the propane tanks on the WAPA site. So HUD will not approve for us to build any residential on the Dishabert site. So they would return to the new developments that were on the new property that we're land swapping with the government.
Quick question, do you know where the new property is? Do you know?
I do, but I don't have the addresses with me, but it's in the middle of the island.
Okay. I'll probably follow up on that later.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Blyden. Thank you so much for having this town hall meeting. It definitely opened my eyes to a lot that's happening within our communities. So kudos to Senator Blyden. I'm his vice chair, but this was really, really meaningful. Thank you again. And thank you all the residents for coming out and voicing your, just telling us, just speaking to us, because your voice is what we need to hear. And that was made possible tonight. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Senator Maurice James, my vice chair. And I want to thank you and your staff for participating to help this come to fruition. Senator Angel Boquez, you have a concern or question in response to the plan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and of course, thank you again for organizing this town hall. And of course, thank you to the VIHA employees that are also here to share the knowledge and information. And of course, colleagues, thank you as well. And most of all, the people who are attending in person and virtually watching tonight. When I heard about the discussion with the Oswald Harris Court community concerning the pursuit of home ownership for that property, it led me to think about the Housing Act of 1937, which was amended in 1998, which was the Quality Housing Work Responsibility Act. There's a provision in Section 32, and I'm curious to know if that section applies to the Virgin Islands, whereas the program allows public housing agencies to use a portion of the federal funding to help eligible public housing residents transition from renting to home ownership. And the program provides opportunities for public housing residents to purchase homes that they're living in or other homes on the market. So that is my question to VIHA at this point.
Senator Boquez, yes. So everything you just discussed as part of the Housing Act 1937 does apply to the Virgin Islands Housing Authority.
Oh shit, they still testifying.
So,
Girl, it's still there.
if I might,
Please mute that mic. Laurie. Yeah, mute all online testifiers, please. Senator Belquez, you satisfied?
thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure what just happened.
Okay.
I think COO Pell mentioned that, yes, that the provision of Section 32 applies here in the Virgin Islands. So my follow-up would be, what is precluding us from making that a possibility for the residents of not only Oswald Harris Court or any other public housing facility that is deemed, after it ages a certain amount of time, then you could decide, okay, we've had tenants here for 30 years, let's make a provision for them to transition into home ownership. What is stopping us from doing that?
Nothing is stopping us from doing it. That whole premise is part of the plan. Again, everything that's in the plan talks about moving to home ownership. A large part of the plan is about home ownership. It's in the plan.
Let's make it a possibility, because I'm hearing a different message here tonight. And I really want to say that, for those who have had the quells of having to deal with the issues and have rented for over 30 plus years, that they should be giving that opportunity. Nevertheless, let's see what we can do to make it a possibility as we work together. Thank you, Senator Blyden, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Belquez, and thank you and your team for helping to spearhead this most important town hall. Senator DeGraff?
Test. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for putting on this town hall. I would like media to just turn up the camera and show the people who are in the audience. For housing, I'd just like to tell you, add this to the plan. It's real people. These people live here, they work here, they try and get a living here, so they have to be forced out of here. Add that to the plan for me, please. Real people, not just incomes and numbers and things. Real people. Is the poverty level and cost of living in the Virgin Islands the same as it is in the United States? Are we using that cost of living and poverty level for the plan? Ms. Pell or so?
Everything that's in the plan is distinctive to the territory.
Okay, so
for the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Right. So because I was saying, let's not let HUD determine our fate. Is what I'm trying to get at. So we put together a plan, and it almost sounds as if whether we put together a plan or not, come January, HUD going to decide, hey, we raising the rent, we trying to people them out. But the poverty level here is the poverty level here. Being on housing for people to go, and first and foremost, add OHC to the plan for home ownership. Let's make it happen. Let's start a process come January 1, so that could be done too. And two final questions. How come, Ms. Pell, first thing I want you to know that, again, I rather support VI housing because they are part of us also in making this happen for the people than to just call you out and try to find fault. So I ain't that person who will be doing that. But the housing authority, below a score of 60 threshold in a housing assessment system, and then out of 14 categories, they also are below the required points. Why are we below the required points? To me, this adds to our detriment when we have to address HUD. So why are we below standards, and what do we need to do to get above standards, so again, we could be looked at in a different light. Because I believe because we are failing below 60%, then we are looked at in a different way. So I don't want us to be gentrified, force us out, also Harris Court, Payson Garden, all these places in prime property. The Virgin Islands is a gold mine. So we don't need to get our people them throat kicked out. So I just would like to know just those two things, those two areas that we're failing in. Why are we failing below the 60% average? You can answer in the chair time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So two things. You talked about the evictions based on the over income. That's a national requirement for all housing authorities come January 1. It's not specific just to the VI Housing Authority. So that's one thing. So, I mean, we use social media a lot. If you go to social media, we're not the only ones complaining about this regulation. It has gone through 6 years of vetting back and forth with HUD, and asking for public comments, et cetera, et cetera. We need to continue to voice our public comments. And this plan is the way to do that. In regards to the lower scoring for our public housing authority and for our housing choice voucher program, the areas that we failed in had to do mostly with our physical components. The inspections that we had for what we call REAC, HUD comes in and does annual inspections of our properties. A lot of these inspections happened right after COVID. A lot of housing authorities were not pleased, and a lot of housing authorities lost scores in their REAC inspections as well. The other major part that we're causing us to fail is rent collection. We're not collecting our rent. Again, another product of the after effects of COVID. There was no collection of rent. Nobody could be evicted. People got accustomed to not paying rent. So we're asking individuals to now go into repayment agreements, try to catch up with the amount that you do owe, and come back to a position where the housing authority's rent collection is where HUD requires us to be. Occupancy. We're past the threshold where we should have been. We are finally at 90%, over 90% occupied. We're continuing to move that mark. So September 30th, we should be getting a better score, almost an additional 3 to 5 points on the scoring for next year's assessment with HUD. So we are continuing to remedy the situations that got our score dropped on our housing choice voucher program. It was always, for the last 5 years, they've always been outstanding. So this is unique. We haven't had this happen in a long time, but we understand the parameters and the situation that has caused it, and we are putting plans, changes in place to make sure that this coming scoring year, that we score better than what we have right now.
Thank you so much for your response. Senator Joseph.
A pleasant good evening, everyone. I want to commend you, Mr. Chairman, for definitely putting together this meeting, and more importantly, I want to congratulate all of the residents that came out to this town hall meeting. For those of you who are in the Chambers, I lived in Oswald Harris Court for 12 years and also in Bovoni Housing Community. I'm probably one of the only legislators who can legitimately say that I have lived in public housing as a resident for almost 40 years. So I feel your pain. I feel what you go through because I have been there. And also I was a employee of the Housing Authority for the Section 3 and Youth Build program. I implemented those two programs. Housing is dear to my heart because I know we are in a housing crisis. I wanted to ask regarding, and I didn't see anything in here, and I know we had the hearing, regarding what we are looking at relative to crime prevention in the Housing Authority. How are we dealing with issues relative to violent and criminal gun activities within the Virgin Islands Housing Authority? I know I saw a section of your plan that you had X'd on it, and you said safety and crime prevention, but I didn't see any delineation or articulation on how that's going to be addressed.
So, Senator, in the plan, there is discussion in the resident wellness section in regards to coordinating with the VIPD and the gun violence task force. So I can look that up for you, but there is discussion about that in the plan.
Yep. But the discussion is a little bit limited because we don't have the community. It needed to be fleshed out a little bit further, just for me, so we could look at having the community policing. Are we going to also have provide opportunities for police officers to reside in the public housing at a reduced rent? That used to happen as well. Are we going to also put in any surveillance cameras within the housing community so we could see the criminal elements and catch them, because people live in fear for their lives, and the employees as well, because the actual activities are happening in the community and they're happening in broad daylight. So the criminal activities and gun violent activities. So that's what I'm getting at, Ms. Pell. It's not in here where it indicates that level of surveillance camera and that type of collaboration. So that was one of the other items I wanted to talk about. I will leave it there because it's growing late. And so I really want to again commend you, Mr. Chairman, relative to holding this town hall meeting, and also commend those individuals who came out and stayed. You should be commended for your work and for your being here this evening. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Joseph. Senator Fonseca?
Yes, pleasant good evening and blessings to everyone. Mr. Chair, I have to congratulate you on having this meeting and bringing together all of the residents and the different people that have been affected. What I get out of this meeting here is that we have a lot of work to do, Mr. Chairman. There's a housing crisis in the Virgin Islands. But to Ms. Pell and Mr. Farmer, right, I have to congratulate you because, in all honesty, based on your testimony tonight, right, it shows that you have a severe funding shortfall. And Ms. Pell explained the little deficiencies with the inspection, and we see how you get back on level, right? But there's also another thing that we have to do, Housing Authority, is that home ownership, definitely we have to push home ownership for Oswald Harris Court and Williams Delight. In addition to that, this legislature has to assist with the financing and making sure our residents qualify. Because you see, redlining exists in the Virgin Islands. You know, redlining is that system where they denied blacks and minorities access to loans to buy houses and open businesses and etc. So redlining exists. So we have to do a little bit more. And to Ms. Fina, who mentioned in 1971 when they purchased the home for $30,600. Well, you know, in 1963 when my mom purchased the house, my mom and father purchased the house in Bavonia, it was $13,500. In 71 it went to $30,600. But look what I want to mention to you here, right? The housing has 2,525 public housing units, and they are saying here to replace those in the 10-year plan is going to be $2 billion. That means the housing is telling us it's $776,700 per unit. Things are very expensive in the housing, in the community, in the Virgin Islands. So we in the government have to do more. So let me ask you, Ms. Pello, Ms. Farmer, does the VI government provide you any financial assistance to pay for your water or to assist with your maintenance or your operating expenses?
Senator Fonseca, no, not at this time.
Okay, see, when I was in housing back a while ago, the VI government used to give the housing authority that water and used to provide subsidies to the housing authority. Now the VI government don't do that. So, Mr. Chair, we have a lot of work to do, and I have to congratulate you on having this meeting. And home ownership for Oswald Harris Court, we need that now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Fonseca. Senator Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just bear with me, please. You know, VI Housing Authority, I know that you probably feel like you're in a hot seat. But let me tell you all something. We're all in a hot seat. Housing Authority, feeling all the questions from our residents, the legislature, being held to make you all accountable to what you're supposed to be doing for our people and coming up with the answers. And our residents rightfully here tonight crying out for us to assist them. Now, honestly, I question at times whether or not the Virgin Islands the Virgin Islands Housing Authority is representing our people's best interests with HUD. That's why I oftentimes tell you all, take your jackets and your ties off, roll up your sleeves, and get out there in these housing communities so that you can understand the cry of our people. As I sat here and listened to the testimony of some of these young ladies, I almost came to tears because what they're talking about is real. What I didn't like was the angle that we're looking to go, and I somewhat blame the authority for this, is because this almost became a St. Croix, St. Thomas issue. As to the one young lady even saying that she wanted to catch a plane to go to St. Croix because these programs happening on St. Croix. You know, but I'm looking, and I do a lot of research on housing all over because I know it's not just in the Virgin Islands. But we are unique, and we're supposed to be able to come up with our answers. And a lack of affordable housing poses, or rather set us up for the housing crisis that we are in today. So we need to be working. Housing costs today, overall today, is one of the driving reasons for inflation. I wonder if you all really realize this. It's rising twice and 3 times the cost of everything else that's going up except your pay. We need answers. Again, I ask on behalf of housing residents, while HUD is requiring that the over-income individuals or households move out or pay higher rent, what is the VI Housing Authority doing to address the problems in these units? My office, I've been called numerous times to come to make physical inspections at people's apartments. And the condition that I'm seeing, up to today, I haven't seen one apartment addressed. Even to a tub that's cracking up and the lady have to take showers outside. What is the authority doing to address this? While we're saying you either have to move out or we're going to raise your rent. Please answer that for me, because somebody asked that and it wasn't answered.
Ms. Fell, I can answer that. I have not received any constituent complaints from Senator Gitten's office. Or are you aware of any? And if you do have...
Well, then you should have let Ms. Pell answer, because Ms. Pell is fully aware. Fully aware.
Senator Gittens, I am not aware.
Yes, you are. We spoke, and you told the one manager to call me. There was a back and forth. When I got over there, the manager jumped in her car and went. And then when I am leaving after I already made the physical inspection, then they come back. I mean, listen, let's stop playing games with our people. That's the problem.
Talking on St. Thomas, I thought you were referring to a situation on St. Croix, but
No,
that situation
listen,
has been resolved.
let me make it clear. I'm elected in the Island District of St. Croix, but I'm a Virgin Islands senator. So when they call me St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John, I go. When I was a police officer, I went through the police academy in St. Croix, but I was a Virgin Islands police officer. So it ain't a matter of where. That's why I'm saying that we shouldn't make it a St. Croix, St. Thomas issue. The point is that you are fully aware of what I'm asking, and I'm asking before anyone is put out or while you're raising the pay, the rent that is, are you addressing the problems of these individual units?
Yes, the units are being addressed. We discussed the plan that we're putting forward about doing more inspections. We have a new HUD protocol for the inspections. The staff is being trained. We are addressing the situation, but it's going to take us some time. Your situation that you described in the Oswald Harris court, the issue was addressed. You called me, I was on a plane, we called the manager came over, you missed the manager, but the issue got resolved. When have you ever called our office and we not resolve an issue that you bring to us?
I'm still receiving these calls. That's what I'm saying.
Every situation that every senator brings before us.
Mr. Chair, I'll close out that while Mr. Abif spoke to a measure passed by the 21st legislature back in 1996 regarding the rent-to-own housing conversion program, again, this program was intended for the Virgin Islands, not for St. Croix. So the public policy indicates that it is a policy of the GVI, the government of the Virgin Islands, that all tenants in good standing of public housing shall be entitled to purchase existing or future public units on favorable negotiations. Now, I wanted to know from them if Housing Authority is doing the home ownership training, and if so, when was the last time that they did so, and how often is it being done? Because our residents are saying that they're fighting for information.
Senator Gittens, the Housing Authority doesn't do homeownership training. One of the requirements of the homeownership plan, the residents go to the Housing Finance Authority homeownership training. They have to attend and they have to bring their certificate to the Housing Authority.
So, okay, and I'll stop here because you're saying that you don't do it, but this is a document from the Virgin Islands Housing Authority that says the housing conversion program described herein is consistent with the elements of Act number 6111. I just need for you all to follow through so that our people can be at rest in their own homes. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for having this town hall meeting. I'm sorry that we had to even be competing with the governor because I know he have a town hall on St. Croix regarding the the derelict buildings and whatnot. But this, I had to be to this one. So I thank you and the Vice Chair for putting this together. And thank you to the residents that came out. More should have come out because this is exactly why sometimes it feels like you're falling on deaf ears. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Senator Gittins. First, I would like to thank you, the community, for attending this evening. I believe that you understand the importance of such a plan, and your voice matters, and your suggestion will not go in vain. So it's important. I want to thank you. I must say also that I know, as you stated, many folks have other responsibilities and other things to do. But I think we had a good representation of residents, and they really spoke up and made their voices heard. I want to thank the Housing Authority for honestly being here and responding to questions. I really appreciate it, because I know it's a priority in terms of the housing plan, and without the residents' input, it's for naught. So thank you again. Secondly, I would like to thank my Vice Chair, Senator Maurice James, and her staff for their assistance, and also Senator Angel Boquist for basically running the route in St. John. I want to thank VHA management and staff for participating also in this endeavor. And lastly, I would like to thank all of my colleagues for their attendance and contribution this evening. It's very important, and I really appreciate you guys. My staff, again, for the hard work in making this town hall a success, and the media and security and their staff for their seamless collaboration. To the Executive Director's Office and Myra Picard, thank you for your expeditious responses. To the listening and viewing audience, again, thank you for your support. Of course, media been here all night, and I really appreciate them. This was a fantastic opportunity for everyone to let their voices be heard. Let's not forget that our efforts are needed in this endeavor. Once we continue to work together, we can see a better future for the Virgin Islands Housing Authority residents and the residents of our community overall. We know we have a housing crisis at this moment, but it's imperative that together we do everything possible to improve our situation. Again, this is not the end. Based on the responses this evening, I know we're going to see many more meetings individually in each housing community moving forward to work with the Housing Authority and the resident to bring resolutions to many of the issues that were brought up this evening. And lastly, as I mentioned in the last hearing, I do see a housing summit on the horizon, because many of the other issues have to do with other housing opportunities in the territory, from contractors to appraisers to surveyors to suppliers, the whole 9 yards. And we're going to make it happen. We must do something to help our people in the territory. Homeownership is one of the most important investment anyone can make for themselves and their families, and it's up to us to make it happen as a community, as a body, and other people. So again, I want to thank everyone for their participation, and I want to say, everybody have a blessed night, and thank you again. Good evening.
No.